So we're now going to move on to the annual report, which is going to be presented to you by a shared screen by our senior leadership team. And then immediately after that, Michael Penny will speak on the accounts. I just want to open this by saying, of course, it's been an extraordinary year, but I'm just so grateful and in awe of the way the organisation has stepped up and adapted itself and coped with everything and remained there very much in the forefront. And that's not least because of our totally brilliant staff who just do a fabulous job and remain ever cheerful and working in difficult conditions sometimes from home, but they have just pulled together and done the most super job. And the presentation now, I think, will reflect that, and you'll see not only what a long way we've come in this year, but also some of the challenges which lie ahead. So I'm now going to hand over to our interim chief executive, Tanya Curry, with whom I have enjoyed working enormously over the last year. So over to you, Tanya.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, everybody. I'm really sorry not to be able to meet you all in person, so I will do my best to engage with you via Zoom. But thank you, Kate, for the introduction. And I think our first slide that's titled "A Year Like No Other" is so relevant for us at the Ramblers and so relevant for all of us as people. It's really been a year of change, and as a chief exec, you know that goes with the territory, but this has been on another level for us. We've really tried to pull together as one whole organisation, so every nation coming together for the mission of the organisation. We've had a lot of change internally. The team have had to get used to me as their interim chief exec, who joined literally 3 weeks before we locked down. Our ways of working have been quite different over the year. We're all working from home. We're all having to work in very different ways, but we really need to focus on the efficiency, the effectiveness, and demonstrating the impact of the Ramblers. We've started that work. There's still lots to do. We have a new office and we're working in a very different world. Externally, I don't need to reference the pandemic, but every charity has been affected by the pandemic. For some of us, we've had opportunities, but equally we've had risks, we've had threats, we've had decisions we've had to make very quickly in the light of very different information. And I think we've really seen over the year that so many people have enjoyed walking. We've done a lot of work, there's so much more to do. But I want us to really remember our relevance as an organisation in a changing world. We need to be agile, we need to be responsive, we need to change in the organisation for the right reasons. But ultimately, it leads us to the mission of the charity. So the mission of the charity is where we create the country where everyone has the freedom to enjoy the outdoors. And I'd like to remind us that it's everyone who needs to have the freedom to enjoy the outdoors. It's why we're here. It's why we work together as one team. Even when it can feel tough and we might feel a bit frustrated with each other, we need to come back to remember this is the mission, this is why we're here, and this is why we're creating the greater good in the organisation. The business plan this year, I felt, needed to have 3 very clear priorities. Awareness and engagement with the Ramblers and all that we do. If you're in the club, it's great, you know all about it. If you're external to the Ramblers, there's many people that really don't understand the great work that this charity does. We need to improve that, we need to change that, and we need to hold on to this because there's so much more. As Stuart said, we've had a year where everyone, it feels, has enjoyed walking. We need to make sure that we pick up on that opportunity and we're quick to do so. And I'm not convinced we've always been as quick over the year as we could have been. Our membership and income is fundamental to the stability and growth of this organisation. It's an area we're working hard to really grow every ounce of our income, to really look at the spread of how we grow money and support for the organisation and really start to increase our membership. It's an absolute priority. It's not only about sustainability now, it's about growth. And lastly, our culture change and our behaviours, and making the charity really inclusive and engaging for a more diverse group of people. We want people to join us. We want people to really understand the benefit of walking and the benefit of the great outdoors. And the way we need to do that will mean that we have to challenge ourselves to work in slightly different ways so we can bring more people into the fold. It's a year where I've been super proud to be interim chief exec. I never anticipated for 1 minute when I came into the organisation this was the year we were going to have, but like many of us. But I hope you enjoy listening now to the work that the team have really engaged with and have really delivered on over the year. And that's all thankful to the team, but also your support in doing that. I will now hand over to Tom Platt, our Director of Advocacy and Engagement.
Thanks, Tanya, and hi everyone. Really good to see you all. I'm Tom, and I'm going to say a few words about the first of those priorities that Tanya highlighted, awareness and engagement. So, as Stuart said earlier, the last year has been really challenging. There's no doubt about that for many of us. But one of the few positives for me and many others has been the sight of so many more people out enjoying walking. And in fact, in many ways, walking is more popular than ever. And we must and we will capitalize on that. So never has there been a better time to celebrate the Rounders and what we stand for. And yet, despite the increase in walking, most people remain unaware of who the Rounders are and the work we do to protect the pleasures of walking for all. For those who do know the Rounders, we can, as we know, often be seen as a bit of a lifestyle club for older group walkers. And yet, as you all know, we are so much more than that. So we need to better communicate why the Rounders is important and relevant to more people. Later in the year, alongside a new website, we will refresh how we present ourselves to make the Rounders feel more contemporary, relevant and distinctive. And we will build on our strengths and our history and champion our collective belief that walking is a simple pleasure that should be open to everyone and is a right to be protected. So that's a little bit about some of our ambition over the next year. I wanted to now say a few words about some of the work we've been doing over the last year to really raise awareness of who we are and our relevance. The Don't Lose Your Way campaign is a flagship campaign for us and has continued to really cut through with supporters and the media and help us reach new audiences and raise awareness of the Rounders and our work to protect paths. The crowdsourcing campaign that happened in February and March last year saw thousands of volunteers, many of them new to the Ramblers, map 49,000 miles of potential lost ways. And these are some of the media highlights we had over the last year. Lots of coverage in The Guardian, a really great piece in The Times featuring Rounders volunteer Chris Padley, which highlighted the campaign, but also some lack of action by local authorities. And just last month, a really nice feature that I hope some of you saw on BBC One's The One Show featuring Bill Oddie. At the end of last year, we also released a new report, The Grass Isn't Greener for Everyone, and that was part of our campaign to influence the Environment Bill. And that's enabled us to talk publicly about the inequality of access to green spaces and to the countryside. And it's a theme we really want to talk more about in the year ahead. And that report did receive some really good coverage and cut through in the media, as you've seen here in pieces in The Telegraph, The Guardian and The New Statesman. In February of this year, we worked with colleagues in Scotland to celebrate and raise awareness of our Excellent Out There Awards in Scotland. And for those of you who don't know about the awards, they help 18 to 26-year-olds explore the great outdoors for the first time, boosting their health, well-being and confidence. And it was a really great opportunity for us to show another side of the Ramblers. This piece on the left demonstrates in the subtitle, the Ramblers, long known for its older demographic, is now recruiting the Insta generation, which I absolutely love. And we are, of course, continuing to speak on a range of issues, whether it's the right to roam or the recent Police Powers Bill, to get our message across whenever we can. So I just wanted to end by saying thank you to all the support you've provided to my team over the last year and restating that now really is the time for all of us to come together and enthuse more of Britain's walkers with the Ramblers. And I look forward to working with you all in the next year to achieve that goal. So without further ado, I will hand over to Sarah to talk you through our membership and income.
Thanks, Tom. And again, it's really lovely to be with you all virtually today. And as everyone has recognised, what a roller coaster year we've had. I'm going to start by showing you a slide that just visualises what's been happening to our membership over the last year. But unlike many charities who've had a really, really tough year, we've managed to weather the storm together. And actually the 6 months up until February 2020, we'd seen a real kind of boost in new members joining the Ramblers, up 30% on the previous year. But as we all know, the lockdown hit in March 2020 and our worlds turned upside down. And of course, membership took a bit of a dip as some members chose not to renew and others chose not to join us. But the good news is that everyone across the Ramblers adapted at pace. We evolved what we were doing. We stayed connected virtually. We encouraged people to get out walking near home. And actually during that time, lots of our members stayed committed to the charity. And we also welcomed some new members and regrew to 99,000 members by the end of December. And as we all know, we then went into a hard winter lockdown in January, which again took a bit of a knock on our membership. So it's been a roller coaster year, but the good news now is that we're seeing new huge opportunities, as Tanya and Tom and Stuart have indicated, working together as we go into the spring and summer and as we see new freedoms and an increased interest in walking. So this year, as others have indicated, our real focus is going to be on two things. And this is thanks to increased investment and funding from the People's Postcode Lottery through their Climate Challenge programme. And we're participating to get more people connected to nature through walking. So firstly, we need to really enhance and innovate our membership products and proposition to appeal to more walkers, both people who want to come on our lead walks by investing in our lead walk systems and our processes and how we work together across Great Britain to welcome more people on those lead walks. And in particular, when the time is right to do so, for example, how we get more taster walks to help people to feel welcomed and included. But in addition to our Lead Walks programme, we really need to focus on more of those walkers across Britain that want to walk their own way, on their own or with their own friends and family. And so we're investing a lot of our focus and attention and research into understanding those audiences, their needs and wants, and how we can best be relevant to them. And that includes how we invest in our Roots library, how we invest in our app, and how we change the way we talk to the outside world. And alongside that, it's really important, as Thomas said, with our new brand and our new website, that we invest more in our sales and marketing programs so that we can encourage and welcome more people to join the Ramblers. But it's important to recognise that whatever type of walker we are, we're all united through a common cause as we grow our community of supporters. But of course, membership is by no means the only income generation stream for the Ramblers. And it's really important that we focus on how we diversify our income, as Tanya has said, so that we remain financially stable and that we spread the risk. So my final slide demonstrates some of the range of how we're going to be doing that over the coming year, so that we spread our financial risk and we grow our income. And that's through making sure that we reach out to both new and existing financial supporters who've been incredibly generous to us this year through responding to appeals, to crowdfunders like our Don't Lose Your Way crowdfunder that generated £80,000 in 1 week from mainly new supporters. And of course, we want to really focus our efforts in maintaining and growing a really strong portfolio of corporate partners who really want to connect with us and partner with us to help us grow our reach and our income. We want to make sure that the support we get from trusts and foundations is not just for restricted programs of work, but we have more unrestricted funding from that source. And last but not least, the People's Postcode Lottery and our relationship with them continues to go from strength to strength. And they've just committed to a 3-year commitment with the Ramblers, and that's the first time we've had a multi-year commitment from them. So there's lots to be hopeful about, and there's lots to do together over the coming year to grow our supporter base, grow our membership community, and grow our income. I'm delighted to welcome Rachel now to speak about our operations and volunteering. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. So 22,000 is a really large number. For example, there are 22,000 employees at the BBC. It's also the number of Ramblers volunteers who share their skills and expertise around our paths, our access and our walk. So together, our volunteers support all of our members, our 90,000 Wellbeing Walks participants and the public to get out in nature. So I'm really delighted to share with you a preview that Wellbeing Walks is the new name for Ramblers Walking for Health. We'll be using it publicly later in the year, and it will help us grow the number of people walking with the Ramblers. Walking is something that everyone has a right to do, and we want to increase the diversity and inclusion in the organisation. We want to reach everyone, and we want to achieve our mission. Thank you for being such great leaders and strong promoters of the Ramblers' goals. Please keep championing our work and welcoming more people to join us. So what a year. During the first 3 months of the Ramblers year, pre-COVID, we all walked. Amongst other things, we delivered outdoor first aid training for 690 volunteers and face-to-face walk leadership training. Then we had to focus on COVID and the stopping and restarting of activities and walking. We prioritised communication and support to our groups and areas and to walk leaders about how to restart both walks and other activities in a COVID secure way. There was a 400% increase in incoming emails and queries to volunteer support, and we held webinars, shared guidance, videos and toolkits. Behind the scenes, we worked with 3 governments and with other walking and sporting bodies to influence the government guidance and promote walking. It was a really challenging time. I know it was challenging for everyone. And we were dealing with 3 governments, last minute announcements and changing the rules at a drop of a hat. In July 2020, we held the first volunteer engagement survey for 10 years. The most positive responses came in the areas of engagement, values and culture, and volunteers feeling really happy with their roles and their colleagues. As you can see here, 84% would recommend the Ramblers as a good place to volunteer. The lowlights were around communication, how we manage change, and what training is available for volunteers. And we're working to make improvements in those areas. To help communication, we've implemented a volunteering portal called Assemble. This is where all volunteers can access news, advice, resources. There's a directory of where you can contact each other. And all of our resources are much more are now on the document hub in Assemble. So here on the next picture, I'm showing you all of the area reports. All of the toolkits that were also previously on our website, they're now all in the volunteer zone. So you will find all of the documents here in the document hub. More importantly, we've increased the number of virtual training sessions where small groups can come together to focus on a topic. We talked and listened to thousands of volunteers across all 3 nations about restarting walking and COVID planning. Together, we've also had regional cluster meetings and various working groups as well. With volunteers, we also developed the new GB-wide training materials like the Walk Leadership Foundation and the volunteer welcome training e-learning. So since January this year, over 1,000 volunteers have either completed or are in the middle of working through these 2 online training resources, and they're getting really good feedback. Together during the year, we've also increased the number of routes that are available and held on our route system. And we're also developing the new Lead Walks Manager, and we're developing that with a group of volunteers. So our strength and success is all about the way that we collaborate together and the way we open up and the way we're inclusive to new people. This is my 4th General Council, and over that time I have really seen the results and successes of improved collaboration. The way volunteers and staff have united with each other and with members and with our external partners to provide a great experience for all. So let's keep doing that together. Thank you. I'm now really pleased to be introducing you to Michael Penny, our Honorary Treasurer.
Rachel, and I'm very pleased to be here to talk through with you, everyone, the financial results for the year ended September 9, 2020. So the accounts have been approved by the Board of Trustees in March 21, and Crowe, our auditors, have given them a clean bill of health by giving us a clean audit opinion. Now there's a lot of information in the accounts, and I just want to highlight a few of the key numbers. So moving on to income and expenditure, important here to see that our income has increased from £10.7 million to £12 million, whilst our expenditure has declined from £11.3 million to £10.8 million. This has generated us a surplus of £966,000 for the year, a significant improvement over last year. But there are a number of important factors that are affecting the results, and I'm going to run through those now. So first, looking at our income in more detail, this slide shows the breakdown of the different sources of income. And you'll see that the key changes have been an increase in unrestricted fundraising, which is driven by the People's Postcode Lottery that Sarah talked about, where we've received an extra £1.6 million, and additional legacies of around another around £500,000 compared to last year. That's been offset by lower income and also lower expenditure in the area and group events. Clearly, because of the lockdown and the restrictions of travel and everything else, a lot of the activity that we normally see in the spring and summer months just could not take place, and that had a significant impact on the income and the costs. It's a bit of a flow through. So from a charity's point of view, from our managing our overall finances point of view, while it's very disappointing we weren't able to do all the events that we wanted to do. We wanted to do the events, they generate income, but that income is then spent on those events. So it's disappointing, but hopefully going forward in this summer and we'll be able to do some more of that. Now moving on to membership income, and Sarah has talked about this in terms of how important it is. And this slide shows membership income and gift aid, because without membership income we can't claim the gift aid. So it's important that we look at them together. Sarah's mentioned the decline in members numbers. On the income side, our membership income increased from 3.4 million to 3.5 million, mainly due to additional gift aid that we were able to reclaim. And I think this is an important, membership income is a very important solid core income for us as a charity. It gives us the base on which we can launch all our other activities. And there are many other charities in the UK who have really struggled this year because of the pandemic. And whilst we've had some difficulties, and I don't want to underestimate those difficulties that we've had, the benefit of our membership structure and the number of members that we have means that we've got a stable core income. So moving on to another source of income is our legacy income. And again, this is a very important part of our income. It generated £1.7 million last year compared to 1.2 the previous year. And we received 52 legacies, some as everyone is greatly received, one for £100 and one for over £400,000. And I'd just like to thank all those generous donors who have left us a legacy in their wills. It's much appreciated, and it really helps us support the activities for the Ramblers. Now, moving on to the other key source of our income is People's Postcode Lottery. And this slide's a little bit complicated, but it's partly because the People's Postcode Lottery operate on a calendar year, and we operate on a financial year ending September. So in broad terms, we've received in the last 4 years between 2.6 and 2.9 million pounds on a calendar year basis. Sometimes the money's received in September, sometimes the money's received in October or whatever. So it depends which month it's received as to when it appears in our financial accounts. So the 3.9 million pounds that we received in September 20, year end September 20, relates to 600,000 pounds received in December 2019, the usual 2.6 million pounds that we get on an annual basis in 2020, then a further 600,000 pounds received in advance of the 2021 year, if you see what I mean. And we'll receive the 1.4 million pounds we've received in November and December 2020. So a very helpful and just a tremendous amount of, we can do such a lot of work with the PPL money. Now, moving on to expenditure. Expenditure's down from 11.4 million down to 10.8 million due to the lower area and group expenditure, which I talked about earlier. In light of the lockdown and the impact it had on our activities and our potential membership income and other sources of income, the trustees and the SLT carefully controlled costs and used the government furlough scheme where we could to minimise our costs. We also in late 2020 moved to these new offices, which are smaller offices, and they will save us around £160,000 a year in our operating costs. Now, although programmes and promotion spend declined slightly, the other areas is increased. So we increased our rights of way spend to 1.9 million, increased our countryside protection spend to 1.2 million, and increased our freedom to roam to 1.3 million. So we're able to, we have continued to invest and develop as much as we can in the difficult circumstances. Now, moving on to the balance sheet, this slide shows the net assets and the cash of at the financial year end. Overall, a very healthy looking position, but, and it's an important but, many of the funds that we have received, particularly from the People's Postcode Lottery, have been provided on the basis that we will spend the money on specific projects. So a better way of looking at how our financial strength is to look at our reserves, which is on the next slide. And here you'll see that our designated reserves, the biggest number is our designated reserves. And this is the money that we've received, lots of it from the People's Postcode Lottery and from other sources, where we've received the money on the basis that we've got projects that we're going to spend it on, including things like IT, walker training, first aid training, website development, and so forth. The important number on this slide, and the one that we as trustees and SLT look at, is the unrestricted reserves, the 1.9 million in yellow. And that is really the reserves that we've got on hand to fund the core activities. It represents about 3 or 4 months of our core expenditure. So we're in good financial shape, and we are in good financial shape, but at the same time, we are really mindful that we need to continue to grow our membership, to grow our revenue, and we need to be very careful of controlling our costs because things can turn very quickly. And then on my final slide, this is a slide for a finance person with no numbers, thought a little light relief. It just tries to show how everything, separate activities that Tanya and Tom and Sarah and Rachel have talked about, how they sort of link into each other and the finances and stuff. So higher membership gives us more income. It provides a larger pool of potential volunteers. Having more volunteers means we can do more to help others and to and to attract new members. And having new members increases our share of voice, provides us more weight to our advocacy work, and more publicity leads to more members, and so on. And so to conclude, it's been a very strange year, as we all know, but it's also been a very successful year due to the passion and collaborative nature of all our staff and volunteers. I'd like to say a huge big thank you to my fellow trustees and the SLT for their support this year. A huge thank you to all those engaged in the management of the finance function across Ramblers, to the finance team, to all the staff and area and group treasurers, and all the many volunteers without whom we could not manage our resources. Thank you very much, and I'll hand you back to Kate.